On this edition of Native Report, we attend the Veterans Powwow and a memorial dedication in Lac Courte Oreilles. We learn about the traditional harvesting of wild rice. And we learn about astronomy from the Ojibwe perspective. We'll also learn something new about Indian country and hear from our elders on Native Report.
Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee-Mdewakanton Sioux community and the Blandin Foundation.
Welcome to Native Report. I'm Stacey Thunder. Military veterans are highly revered in Native culture. The Lac Courte Oreilles community in northern Wisconsin holds an annual Veterans Powwow to honor the men and women who proudly served our country. One powwow was extra special with a dedication of a veterans memorial.
Veterans Day on the Lac Courte Oreilles Nation is always celebrated with their annual powwow, but this day is made even more special with the dedication of their Veterans Memorial.
On behalf of the people of Lac Courte Oreilles, I want to thank all of our veterans and their families for their tremendous sacrifices in the protection of our freedoms at home and abroad.
The Veterans Memorial that we dedicated today was just a plan last year, about August of last year. And we went to the Mdewakanton Sioux tribe and got a grant. And from there, the concept of this memorial that we dedicated today was born. But on that corner has always been a key area for Lac Courte Oreilles when our vacationers come through, or tribal members, or visiting tribes. It's the junction of K and E where it branches off. And the idea was how can we make that corner stand out from the rest of the area, and that was the ideal spot.
Honor and remembrance is symbolized through the drum. Vice Chairman Barber and Elder Louis White sit on the soldier's drum and also with the Badger Singers.
This drum originated in World War I, back in 1917. A young lady back then had a dream, and I believe her Indian name was Nijogizugukwe, out of the Wolf clan, Wolf family. They had a dream and said that we had to make this drum because when our soldiers return, we want to honor them.
I've been singing with drum for a number of years. We've been together. I also sing with the Badger Singers, which has a number of singers that sing with the soldier's drum. We've been involved since the beginning of the Veterans Powwow, which is probably our 38th annual powwow. I was with a couple of other veterans. I'm not a veteran myself, but I remember talking with these individuals, and they were talking about honoring the veterans of Lac Courte Oreilles, and that's how we started out.
Initially, it was to revive the 49 song, which remembers the 50 warriors who went to war and the one who did not come back.
According to the story, they sent 50 warriors overseas to battle in the war. I think it was World War I, and one didn't make it back over here, and that was kind of the 49 song, and they wanted to honor that one that perished in battle and overseas, and then also honor the 49 soldiers that came back. In our language, the drum is Dewagan, in our language, day in our language means heart. And Wagan, according to the older people, they said heart sounding. So in my own feeling is that the drum is the word itself in Ojibwe is an animate word, meaning it's alive. And we respect that because of we call what we our moneydoog, our spirits, and the drum has a spirit. And so that's why we hold that special, and this when our drums come through dreams like that from our people, and we were instructed by the Creator to put those drums together like that, and that's the way the soldier drum came to be as a result of a dream.
Anyone that sits at a drum, as long as we've been together, the Badger Singer has been around way back in the late 60s on up to the present day. Lewis White and Stoney and Bill Cadotte, Jim Miller, but it's camaraderie. And we have a lot of veterans that sit on the drum. But, oh gosh, the responsibility is to sound good, make that drum sound good so that people want to get up and dance, you know, and feel good.
There's another responsibility, and that is to the younger generation.
That's why one of the reasons why I work at the school here is to influence at least 10 students, and hopefully maybe one or two will take the ball and sing and carry on what I know. I've been singing a long time, and I know a lot of songs, and I'm a student yet of music, our own music here at Lac Courte Oreilles, as well as other tribes too, because we do share and help other people with our songs. So this powwow is special. I was here at the beginning, and a lot of the people that formed it have passed on, and I'd like to see it carried on by our young people, and hopefully that we do that in remembering those, our elders and our ancestors.
Did you know that American Indian and Alaska Native military veterans are highly revered by Native Americans? Prior to citizenship being granted in 1924, 12,000 Native Americans served in World War I. At a time when there were fewer than 350,000 American Indians in the U.S., over 44,000 served in World War II. During the Vietnam War, over 42,000 Native Americans served in the military, and 90% were volunteers. Today, Native Americans continue to serve at a high rate and have a higher concentration of female service members than any other ethnic group. In declaring November Native American Heritage Month, President Barack Obama said in 2011, "Native Americans stand among our most distinguished authors, artists, scientists, and political leaders, and their accomplishments have profoundly strengthened the legacy we leave our children." American Indians and Alaska Natives bravely fought to protect this legacy as members of our armed forces. As service members, Native Americans have shown exceptional valor and heroism on the battlefields, from the American Revolution to Iraq and Afghanistan.
Next, the harvesting of wild rice has been done annually for generations. For the people of the Fond du Lac Band of Lake Superior, a ricing camp where ricers can process their harvest is also a place where others can learn about this traditional practice.
It is near the end of summer when days are still warm and nights are moderate. It is also a time that marks the annual wild rice harvest in northern Minnesota. Perch Lake on the Fond du Lac Reservation is one of 5 primary wild rice lakes.
It is the headwaters to our other line of wild rice lakes. Down the far north end is the Clearwater, they call it. and that's used for fishing and boating and whatever. But there's racing and hunting ducks, catching fish. This is the lake that you do it on. I started harvesting wild rice myself when I was 7 and my brother was 10. And I did this to buy school clothes and that. At that time the rice was so thick out there that you couldn't see the canoe.
Wise has a degree in environmental science, and as a former manager of the reservation's natural resource program, has many years of wild rice management experience.
This lake has been open water for 10 years before I was asked to help the natural resources program for Fond du Lac to grow their wild rice. Low water is usually the remedy for the rice to start growing, so that to make our life, the sun can hit the bottom and warm up the bottom and start the germination of the rice to start growing. My grandma used to control the dam on this lake here for like 20 years, and she'd always take out extra planks and drop the water lower than what they had to ask her to keep the water level at. Because she said when the rice would grow a big crop when the water was low in the spring.
For Wise, the harvest of wild rice is a generational practice, just as it is with the many Fond du Lac families. In an attempt to encourage family participation in the traditional ways, a racing camp sits only yards away from the boat landing.
What I'm doing here is what my my grandparents showed me. They showed me how to fix this monominique, just the way you see it here. That's the way. They didn't tell me to take it to a machine or anything. So then throughout the years, I grew up like this. Then after a while, I kind of looked around, and there's not a lot of people, not too much people doing that. You know, there's families still around that they just keep it to themselves. And I figured, well, my mom and dad 4 years ago, they told me, they said, hey, you help a lot of people all over the place. They said, we got Indians right here. He said, help them. I said, well, I don't really know too much. They said, you know, just show them what we showed you, and then show them what you learned from the elders. It's a live working camp, and we invite anyone and everyone. We put up a Waganagan, and then in there we can explain to other people, but this is open to our band members and somebody that wants to, you know, finish their rice and, by hand, which tastes better than, putting it in machines. It tastes different, and then it's a better feeling, because when you do a camp like this, it's more family orientated. You need grandma and grandpa, you need your aunt and uncle, you need all the kids, and we're doing that in that good way, that family orientated way. That way we'll be, when somebody brings their rice home, it's really something to them, because there's all those memories and good thoughts and good feelings. It's all there. Bring it right to the top and twist. Top and twist. Top and twist.
That's a big kettle.
Yeah. A lot of young people are going to other cultures, other places and other people to find a way for them. So this right here is a lot of our children. They're just, driving around. They come over and they're like, hey, what are you doing? Within a week, they're, fixing rice, and they're taking, they're learning things, and elders come in here. And so there is an importance. So me and myself, I put every effort in there to do this.
This year's wild rice harvest is a way for both men to keep their connection to the past alive in the present, the meaning of which is not lost on either man.
Each of our licks, the rice is a little bit different. It's always different. It tastes different, looks different. All of it, it's like, so this one's like home, it's like home. Then my dad, he told me, he said, yeah, he said, this Monoman, he said, It's really good. It's really good. So he said, yeah, sure, you could sell it. You could sell it. Get your kids some shoes, or get some, some gas money, get some lunch. But then he leaned over, he said, remember, that's your food.
Just put yourself here 200, 300 years ago, which isn't that long in geological time. But like, when the native people had rice, that was their main staple to live through the harsh northern winters that we have here. I was told by my grandma, when she told me was that lake can be sky blue water out there for 7 years, and under the right conditions that rice will come up plump full, and that's what happened here. She must be looking down right now and seeing that the rice kind of has been saved now for the future generations to come.
Well, in the Great Plains region, we still rank extremely high in diabetes, as well as a high substance abuse, mental health. Almost, when we look at our top 5 diagnoses, those 2 or 3 specific diseases are always in the top 5. And so one of the reasons why we run an integrated systems of care is because in our traditional room, which has a medicine wheel built into the ceiling, it's a daily reminder that we don't treat somebody just for a specific diagnosis of what they're presenting for today, a sore throat, flu-like symptoms. We treat them in a holistic manner of making sure that we look at the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual quadrants of every single patient every time we see them. And so knowing that we're high in diabetes, high in cardiovascular, high in depression, you have to address that every time the patient comes in to try and make them holistically well. And so we really look at that is not just coming in for, I don't feel well today, but how do we treat the whole person?
The interest in native astronomy has grown over the past 10 years, and almost all native cultures recognize patterns in the stars. Next, we learn about the interpretations and stories about what the Ojibwe saw in the night sky.
Beneath a blue sky on this late spring day, a group of educators and elders meet outdoors at the Fond du Lac Tribal and Community College for a workshop about native astronomy.
Whenever we have the chance to find alternative ways of teaching, and especially reteaching things that were important to our people, it's really helpful to have the people come here and put on these workshops, and we wanted to be part of that. And it's a really eclectic group of people that come here, and a lot of them take that back with them, and it just it's like fertilizer on flowers, and they take that back, and it just creates new gardens all over the place for knowledge. And it's our knowledge, and that's, I think, what's really important. It's actually our own stories that have been forgotten by a lot of people, but we've been able to get elders together and people that know a little bit about a lot of things, and we bring them together and share with each other. It's really a nice way of learning.
There's been a great deal of gathering material for the last 100 years on the Ojibways, but generally the literature people gathered myths, the food people gathered data about food and relationship to food, wild ricing, maple sugaring. And all of these things were separate because in the modern academic world we tend to separate all these things. Well, you've got to put them all together if you're going to be talking about Indians. And so the people who are gathering legends didn't realize that those legends had star stories to go with them, because probably when they interviewed and gathered their legends, it probably wasn't the right time of year. So their informant didn't tell them. So we've got all these legends, maybe hundreds and hundreds of legends in the archives, but there's no reference to stars, very little. We see our job here, these scholars who are with this Skywatchers program, we hope to coordinate all those stories together and put it all together. And in the constellation, you have it right there.
Carl's presentation deals with how the Ojibwe people interpreted what they saw in the night sky. He credits an article he wrote about Ojibwe astronomy with creating further interest in the subject.
Years ago, I published an article in Lake Superior magazine on Ojibwe sky watchers, and that article circled around quite a bit. And I got to be pretty well known when the subject came up about Ojibwe astronomy, and that I was the go-to guy to talk about that. And I was about the only one really working in it. Suddenly the interest just bloomed about 10 years ago. I was always interested in astronomy, but it was Western astronomy. Now, my father apparently knew a great deal of Ojibwe astronomy, and he told me a couple of stories. Like I said, I was a young man, didn't pay much attention, and then all of a sudden, about 20 years ago, I started thinking about it again. And this was one of these times when you kind of wish your father was around because you can go back and ask him, but by then he had passed. And so I just remember just a few of the stories and a few of the constellations that he identified.
One story is depicted on a rock wall overlooking a lake near Carl's home in Ely, Minnesota.
There's many legends about the Wintermaker, which is a giant that brings the frost, it brings the snow, it brings the ice. And many Ojibwe legends tell how different other characters trick the Wintermaker that seems to be holding its grip on the north, and they figure out a way to trick him into leaving. Well, the Wintermaker constellation rises in December. It comes up over the horizon and it's fully complete. You can see the whole constellation as soon as winter settles in. In the spring, the Wintermaker constellation is starting to slip into the west, and it's tilting over. He's losing his power. The Wintermaker constellation is the biggest constellation that we have in the night sky. It's Orion. The Hegman Lake rock paintings are a great moose. There's a great figure with outstretched arms, and that's the Wintermaker. And there's a panther, or I should say puma, that's depicted there as well. And then there's other markings and other parts of this big cliff that the rock paintings are on. The big figure with the outstretched arms, I realized that was the Wintermaker. And that looking up at the constellation of Orion, those great big long outstretched arms, connect to two bright stars, Procyon and Aldebaran. The rock paintings also have heart, I guess the scholarly term for it is a heart line. That is, most people when they reproduce the rock paintings think of them as silhouettes or a solid color, but there's actually heart areas that are rubbed away showing where the heart is of the moose, of the puma, and of the Wintermaker. And they match with stars in the constellation. There's a little star that marks that heart. Did the idea of this great cosmic moose come first with the big heart indicated on it? Or was it the constellation that came first? And then they created the moose from the constellation.
Carl is quick to point out that this is his interpretation of the paintings, and that stories may differ from region to region.
In Ojibwe culture, different locations, different geographic regions might have a different constellation, different legends. And people are looking for absolutes. Well, in Ojibwe culture, you don't have them. The story told at Mille Lacs might be completely different than one told at Madeline Island. If the Ojibwe say that at the winter solstice, the winter maker rises completely above the horizon, that's science. Because people predict it, and it's predictable, and it happens right on schedule. That's science.
The Fond du Lac community is really appreciative of having people come and help us and relearn things that have been there forever. Our own stories are up in the sky, and they're there for us.
For more information about Native Report or the stories we've covered, look for us at nativereport.org, Facebook, and Twitter. Thank you for spending time with us here on Native Report. I'm Stacey Thunder.
Stacey Thunder is Ojibwe from the Red Lake and Lac Courte Oreilles Nations and is the Legislative Counsel for the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe. Professor Tad Johnson is the Director of the Master of Tribal Administration and Governance program at the University of Minnesota Duluth and is an enrolled member of the Bois Forte Band of Chippewa. Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee-Medwakanton Sioux community and the Blandin Foundation.